Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here. Debbie, you've been working with me for over a year now, and you've been coming to my group coaching sessions, along with lots of other ladies. And I'm wondering whether you can just take us back to how you were prior to group coaching and what was life like for you, before you came on my program.
Life wasn't life at all. It was awful. I was agoraphobic, claustrophobic, sick phobic, well, still am. I had lots of anxieties around my health, to the point that I couldn't go out. If I did go out, I had to have someone with me all the time. I would literally have to go to, point A and then panic and be rushing home again because the only place I felt safe was in my house. Even at home, I didn't feel 100% safe.
Actually.
Um, yeah, to the point that I was having palpitations, sickness, lightheadedness. I would feel like I was going to faint if I was out. So I was convinced that I had some real serious illness. Um, and then it got to the point where I found that I would go out, I would have what I didn't realise at the time were panic attacks because I'd have heart palpitations, feel lightheaded, dizzy, and think I was ill. Come home, and I think the realisation came was when somebody pointed out to me that when you're home and then you calm down, your symptoms go.
Yeah.
So if you were ill, your symptoms would be there
Wow.
lying on your settee or sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's when I realised I had a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did approach the doctor. I did get some CBT counselling, which wasn't very help. It was helpful, but it ended after 6 weeks. So I felt that where I was just starting to understand what was going on, then I was on my own, and then I went backwards. I
Yeah.
literally went backwards.
Bless you, bless you. And it is a life where, you are just existing at that point. I know when we started working together, you were really cautious about what you ate, what you could and couldn't eat, and obviously having metaphobia and, being worried about sickness. You were really cautious about that. So how was that impacting you at that point?
Oh, I couldn't eat out. I wouldn't have takeaways, everything, even to the fact that in the end, my husband would cook for me because wasn't convinced that what I was, if I cooked, everything was burnt or overcooked because I was so paranoid about poisoning myself. And even when he cooked, I'd be saying, "Did you wash your hands before you did that? Did you do this?" I'd be cutting the food open. That was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. There were certain things I wouldn't eat because I'd heard that they can give you food poisoning and yes, so I literally restricted what I was eating to the point that the anxiety became so high, I lost my appetite totally and then lost huge amounts of weight, but where I couldn't eat because I had what do they call it, globus?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lump in the throat where you can't swallow. So I was convinced I had something wrong with my throat and my swallowing. And it was just all anxiety related that then became a health problem that
Absolutely. So we know there is always a trigger. For you it was quite an obvious one. Not always so obvious with people. Sometimes it's, it's nurture, it's the way we were brought up, it's lifestyle. For you, you had that thing. But what was the point where you said enough is enough? Like, I cannot be living like this. Was there a defining moment, or did you just find yourself thinking, I really need to sort this out?
No, I think it was when I was just looking at other people going out. My kids, my boys were going out, and I thought I can't even go and have a McDonald's or fish and chips or anything. And if I went out for the day, I was on such a tight spring the whole time. I was just clock watching. I can't wait to get home. I was just spending the whole day trying to deal with my symptoms. And it got to the stage where I thought, I don't even want to live anymore. I really don't want to live anymore because I can't live just in this fear at all. And that's when I started to think I'm going to have to look outside of the box to try and see if there's other people that, feel like this and how they deal with it and what they do.
Okay, amazing. And that's at the point where you found me, I guess, through Facebook, the world of technology. At some point you came.
A weird thing how I found you, Amy. My friend had breast cancer and was in the middle of having her chemotherapy and a mastectomy. And she said to me, "Oh, look at this woman that I've found on Facebook called Louise Butcher, who is flat." And so I looked at one of her videos and saw you'd made a comment and that you were a health anxiety coach. So I looked you up and that's where I found you.
So weird, isn't it? Yeah, Louise is massively inspirational, and if she's watching this now, because I know she's on our Facebook group, she is incredible. She had health anxiety herself, and she then had breast cancer. She's a double mastectomy survivor, but she now runs marathons
Yeah.
to prove to herself that her body is capable. So she's hugely inspirational. So the fact that you came across her, that's a great person to give you that inspiration, and then you found me. So I guess that was the point where you found out a bit about what I did, and then I remember we had a chat about where the best way was, what the best route for you was, and we decided that group coaching was the way forward. And at that point, I think group coaching for me was relatively new. I just started doing it. I had a small young group. So how did you feel on that first day? I guess the first time you turned up, obviously it's nerve-wracking, isn't it, to come and expose all your fears and worries. How was that first session for you?
It was really hard because I'm not really one for putting my life out there. I don't, I'm quite shy and quiet really. And I was also worried about the Zoom calls appearing on camera. And I thought, oh God, what are the other people going to be like? But then I thought, if I don't do something, I'm never going to move forward. So I just thought, I'm going to do this one session. If I don't like it or I don't feel comfortable, I don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's holding me. So I came and that was it. I've never looked back.
No, you've never looked back, and you've been coming. I got goosebumps just doing that, but you've never looked back. You've come every week consistently, and I think that's the key for you, Debbie, is being consistent with
Mm.
this. Like throughout this whole journey, you've shown up, you've listened to the advice, you've really taken heed of it, and you've implemented it into everything. And it's baby steps, right? This is not an off switch. There is no health anxiety off switch. If I had that, I would be making a fortune. It doesn't work that way. It's about new habits, being consistent, showing up, doing the work, and you've done that. So tell us now, like what is life like for you now? Like how are things?
Oh God, I go out. I go out quite a lot. I eat in restaurants. I eat out fast food. I go for coffees without fear. And as you said, it doesn't go away and it has been a long work in progress. But working with you, because I did a one-to-one with you as well, which was hugely beneficial. But the groups, just listening to how the other ladies, what they do and how they deal with their symptoms, and just taking on board, like with you, with the switches of the mind, instead of thinking, oh, this is going to poison me. I think, well, all the thousands of people out there that do, and how many people do you hear that have been poisoned? Really, it's
Yeah,
very rare.
yeah,
So I thought I'm just going to push myself. So I did little steps at a time. And yeah, I mean, now my life is just so much better to the point that even every time I get a symptom now, I don't immediately feel that it's a life-threatening illness or I'm ill. I just think, oh, there it is. I call it the gremlin on my shoulder and it whispers in
okay.
my ear,
Yep,
there it is. And I think, okay, I'm not listening to you because you're telling me rubbish.
yeah, absolutely. It
And
is.
and it is just changing the mindset and looking at things in a different way. So and the watch and wait. Whereas before, if I got a pain in my stomach and I'd be thinking, oh, that's a bit weird, I've never felt that, I better ring the doctor. I don't now. I think, oh, just ignore it, do it. If it gets worse, then I'll do something about it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah, I know you said the other day that it felt weird not to have anxiety because after, the years that we get stuck in this
yeah,
cycle, this loop, we start to look for it. And when it's not there, it's very strange. And, I call it the handbag that we carry around. And all of a sudden we're not carrying it. And it's like, where has it gone? It feels really weird. And I know you described that the other day and, having, just
yeah.
living life and not having that anxiety that you're carrying with you.
But that's the weird thing. It's got to the point now where obviously it's never going to go away and you're always going to have triggers. But it is how I feel about it now, how my thought process around it. And like for instance, the other day when something happened, and normally my thoughts and my brain would have gone into overdrive. My body then reacts. So then I feel sick, I get heart palpitations, I feel lightheaded, I feel like I'm going to faint. And then I go into a real panic situation.
Yeah.
This time the thoughts were there and I could recognize that I was catastrophizing and I was overthinking. So I was able to bring that back and think on a more level
Yeah.
issue,
Yeah.
but my body didn't react.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
my brain, the thoughts were there, but the body wasn't reacting,
And that's
which
when
was
you know you're
weird.
cracking it. That's when you know
Yeah,
you're really cracking it, when your brain and body are working at
yeah.
different frequencies. So that it's huge progress, and it's lovely to see this because when we work together every week consistently, week on week, there are definitely ups and downs. And anyone that's looking at this and thinking, oh, it's all just been an upward climb, it really isn't.
Mm,
It goes like this, and in some weeks I know you've turned up and you're really frustrated and things aren't going the way that
mm,
you want, but then other weeks it flips on itself and you're really doing really well. So that's what it's all about. It's about that consistency and coming along every week. It's
mm,
not about turning up every so often and hoping you're going to gain some little nuggets that are going to help you. It's about coming up and being accountable, to yourself and to the other ladies in the
mm.
group.
Yeah, and also I think it's about catching your thoughts now, isn't it? Because the body wasn't reacting, the thoughts were still there, but whereas before I'd let those thoughts really run overdrive, now I'm able to sort of think, this is just a thought. It's
Yeah,
not fact. This isn't happened. There's no evidence that this has happened.
yeah,
So it's just a thought. So I'm able
absolutely.
to sort of stop that now in its tracks, which
Absolutely.
is really helpful. And as I say, and just coming every week, I just feel like it just keeps me accountable for it. The training every week, even though like what you said, some of it, you say oh, you're going to go back over like the visualization. I find that really helpful, the visualization. That has helped me massively with hospital appointments, of like visualizing a good outcome and keeping me calm during that time. So I just think by coming every week that I just find it so helpful just to
It's exactly that. It's about repetition, and sometimes, I can often feel like I'm a broken record, but it is about changing that neural pathway. So it's going to be going over and over and over the same thing till it starts to sink in. And that's exactly what you're doing. How do you, when you think about the group, because I know we've got a lovely bunch of ladies and
yeah,
men
love
in
that.
there, but when you think about them, what I know you've made really good relationships with them. How has that helped you as well?
Oh, it's great because I just feel like family, really. I feel like, although it's all online, you feel like you're going out for coffee with people that you've known for years
Yeah,
and that people that you can really be totally yourself with
yeah,
and relax with. And I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, is it? There's things that we laugh about. And I think sort of just bringing the humor into it just breaks the cycle of that being such a
yeah.
a bad thing. And I just find that listening to them as well and how they deal with stuff and seeing their progress really makes me feel happy to see how they've progressed as well.
Absolutely. You're not alone. We talk about how you always feel like you're the worst, you're handling it much worse than everybody else. But actually when you go and see other people, you realize actually you're not, you're all in it together. And how nice is it to have a room full of people who are completely getting where you're coming from, who understand, who have been there, are going through exactly the same thing. It's really unique to have that because, although health anxiety is very prevalent, to get a room full of people together who are in exactly the same boat was actually really hard. So there are so many benefits, but I know you've made friendships from this, and I think that's so lovely, heartwarming. You've met up locally with another member, and that you just can't get anywhere else.
No, no.
It's so lovely to hear.
Because I wouldn't, I mean, the other member, I would never have met her at all if it wasn't for the group. And it just worked out that we were lucky that we lived a couple of miles apart, so we're able to meet up in person. And as I say, and the other ladies on the group, although like one of them's in Australia and one's in Scotland, I feel like I'm connected to them as if I've met them in person.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know I have met them in person, obviously on Zoom, but not
in
physically.
physical, yeah.
But I just feel like you just feel like you're so supportive because I know I can go to any of those ladies individually and ask their advice because I know if they've had a similar experience to what I've had, and I can go to any one of them and I know the support's there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's lovely to watch. It's heartwarming. It makes my job so lovely to see you guys, having those relationships, and to have that network of people you can just message if you need to. I'm always here, but other people as well are at the end of the phone if you're having a tough day. It's that backbone that we just don't have, because health anxiety can feel hugely lonely, when we're going through it and people don't understand. I know you've got family, but very often they don't get it, and they get frustrated with us because of, the way that we're behaving or thinking. So to have that network, it's priceless, I think.
And I think also what helps, because initially, where I find it hard to express how I'm feeling or what I'm suffering with, because I keep it all internally. So then when I do it, it all comes out in a jumble, and then it is all so mixed up, you don't know where to start. And I think with one-to-ones, that's absolutely fine for people, and that works a lot because they can really express and offload. But I think for some people, a group works better for them because they can come along, they don't have to take part, they don't have to speak, they can just listen. So you haven't got that pressure on you to try and sort of articulate or offload what your problem is to
Yeah.
start. And then you can get ideas from other people of, oh yes, that I have that problem. And then you know where you can feed in. And I initially thought I would never speak on the group. I thought I would just sit there. Now I think I do a lot of speaking. Too much.
No, you don't, but it's lovely to hear, and absolutely you've got that balance. So, I'm happy I prefer you to have your camera on if you can, but if you really don't want to, it's not a problem. We, as a community, we'd like to be able to see everybody, but if you want to sit there for your first session with your camera off and be muted, that's fine. Just take it in. A lot of it is about interaction. So eventually we'd like to see you, coming out of your shell and having that
Mm.
conversation. But to start with, it's a really good starting point to come in and just dip your toe in the water. Because let's be honest, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Zoom was a thing that, was just a rocket in the sky.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it did, how it existed. The COVID helped with that. But it's all still really new for us. So it can be really daunting, even for me, Zoom is still a new entity. So it's different. It's a different way of working now. But we couldn't do this and communicate with the ladies all over the world like we do if we didn't have this available to us. So it's hugely beneficial.
Yeah, and that's what I found as well. As I say, literally come into the group, I didn't feel pressure that I had to not know where to start with what my problems were or what, my symptoms were and how to deal with it. And I think just by coming along and then just listening to others, and then all of a sudden I felt so comfortable. I was able just to say, where I was at, and
Yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
it's amazing to hear, and thank you for sharing. I think it's really important because, like I say, this is a daunting thing to start, and sometimes when you need help, you have health anxiety, you need help, but you just don't know where to start. And for anyone that's watching this and who is feeling a bit, oh, I don't know whether this is the right thing, come along and see, because you are a shining example of how consistency, perseverance, showing up every week and having that determination can really pay off. Now your life versus how it was a year ago is so different. And I'm so super proud of you and all the people that turn up to those sessions, because they just have so much power. So really utilize that, and well done you, pat on the back for doing this, because it takes a lot of guts, courage, all of those things.
But no, I mean, I just find it so beneficial, and I can't see me leaving very long.
We don't want you to leave. We don't
Because I
we
mean,
definitely
it's lovely where you start off, isn't it, with a breathing, so that gives you that calm, and then you do your presentation of whatever topic we're doing, and I just find that really helpful because it's just like a learning process all the time, isn't it? You just
Yeah,
Keep
absolutely. I
learning
mean,
all
the
the time.
sessions really are, they're led by me, but I find I do sit back as the session progresses. So, I'll start with a breathing technique, then I'll do a training. Now, the training is led by you guys. So often you'll say, Amy, can you cover this or can you cover that? And I'm very much open to doing whatever people would
Mm.
like me to do because I like to learn too. So I'll do a bespoke training. We have a session on a Tuesday evening at 7:30 and a Wednesday morning at 11. And what I'm tending to do now is do a dual topic, so something that I can carry over both days. So that is led by me, and then I would open it up, and like you say, it's almost like a coffee morning type thing. We're able to express how we feel, share our wins, share our gratitude, share anything that's bothering us, anything we need help with, and there's no pressure. There is absolutely zero pressure. But the
Mm.
benefits are amazing. So thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Like I say, hugely proud of you and everything you've achieved. So thank you for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Debbie.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.